for Public Broadcasting, and it's a great honor and my pleasure to introduce our friend, Senator David Pryor.
Thank you, Rick. A while ago, when I've stopped Judge Dawson calling people my old friends, but I say now my longtime friends. So my longtime friend Jim Blair was up here, and he was talking. He said, "This guy that I'm about to bring before you is wonderful, and he's wise." And I thought he was describing Dale Bumpers until he said he's wonderfully quiet, and so I knew it wasn't Bumpers at that time. Well, anyway, I really am honored to be here, and Barbara Pryor is here, a product of this wonderful town, Fayetteville, Arkansas. And every opportunity we get, we come to Fayetteville. We love to be in Fayetteville. We own a little home here, and just like many of you, it was hit pretty hard by the ice, the trees, where we didn't lose any part of the house, but many of our trees did, I'm afraid, go by the wayside. But anyway, we're going to plant new trees, and they're going to have an opportunity to grow and flourish and provide shade and quality of life now that the old trees are gone. So we'll all have to be philosophical about that particular storm. Let me just say what a great family this is, supporters of KUAF. And Rick, I want to say thank you to you. I was talking with a member of the staff today from the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, and I was asking them about a particular poll. I just heard about a survey, and this man on the other end of the phone says, "I used to be at Wisconsin NPR, and I have a wonderful friend," and he says, "I think it's a little town called Fayetteville, Arkansas." Fayetteville, Arkansas. His name is Rick Stockdell. I said, "Man, that's who I'm going to see at 4 o'clock, is our mutual friend, Rick." Rick, you have done a remarkable job here, and I thank you for Rick asked me if I would just to say a word or two about the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, and I'm not going to keep you long. And then I would, if I'd like to say a word about helping this station reach fruition and reach its maximum potential, which Rick is going to make happen, and all of you in this room are going to make happen. First, about 3 years ago, I received a phone call from Harry Reid, a wonderful friend, a majority leader now in the Senate. Harry said, "David, there's a Democratic position open on the 8-member board for the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, and I'd like for you to take this particular Democratic seat. It's been in a lot of trouble the last 2 or 3 or 4 years, and there's a lot of opposition to public broadcasting, not only television but also radio. I might add, if I could, that 72 members of the House of Representatives have consistently opposed any funding for PBS or NPR, and this philosophically say that is not the place for taxpayers' dollars to be spent. I strongly disagree, and I think a lot of you in this room strongly disagree. I think it's the place for taxpayers' dollars to be spent in the communication between our states and our cities, our country, our farms, and our businesses. Nothing today, in my opinion, is more valued than public broadcasting, television, and radio. But I took this seat after filling out about 1,300 pounds of forms, 10 years of IRS statements, tax receipts, all this stuff, and finally it went on and on and on, and it got so crazy. It was when George W. Bush was, I might say, was in the White House. And it got so wacky and crazy, all these things I was having to fill out. I said, wait a minute. I told this young lady at the White House, I said, you know, I'm not trying to be the director of the CIA. I'm trying to go on the board of the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. But they kept delaying, and it took about a year and a half, I think, once the nomination went from the committee and so forth. But it has been a wonderful experience. In a nutshell, This act that created the Corporation for Public Broadcasting was enacted about 66, 67, and that has been since the inception of the concept of public broadcasting in our country. What a fabulous contribution both television and radio have been under this umbrella of the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. There are 8 members of the board, all chosen by the President, confirmed by the Senate. By the way, I have now been confirmed. I was filling an unexpired term, and I've now been recently confirmed for a full 6-year term. So it looks like I'll be around a while on the board, and it's been a great experience. Let me say that my first meeting, and I took the oath of office as a new member of the board, where in Washington, D.C., at the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. What was the name of the conference room in which I held up my hand and took the oath? It was, of course, the Blair conference room in Washington, D.C. at the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. Diane, for some number of years, served the corporation and served our state and our nation so admirably, and the respect for Diane is just, it still oozes every day. People always are talking about the contributions that Diane Blair made to the Corporation for Public Broadcasting and for NPR and PBS together. We don't do formats. We don't do at the corporation. We don't decide what programs Rick Stockdell should have on radio. We don't do that. If someone gets on there and says something that's untoward or not nice about someone, we don't also take the blame for it, because we don't have anything to do with that. What we are basically the conduit, and you might call us sort of the conscience of the public broadcasting system in our country. The 8 members of the board receive reports on a monthly basis of what's going on out there in the country. All the newspaper articles that are written about programs on NPR and on PBS, we get copies of those, we follow those trends. I just noticed, by the way, that the state of Virginia, because of cutbacks in Virginia sales tax and other tax revenue sources, that they are contemplating cutting back entirely from their commitment to public broadcasting in Virginia. I don't think that is happening in the state of Arkansas, but we should always be on guard, because sometimes in a moment like this, in an economic downturn, one of the first things to go is an entity or a belief or a concept, as popular as it might be with public broadcasting. NPR and PBS, that's what we fund. The Congress gives the corporation each year about $420 million. And we take that money, $420 million, and the general formula is about 75% goes to television, and about 25% of that goes to radio. Rick has always lobbied to reverse that. He wants 75% to go to radio and the other 25% to go to public broadcasting, but that's just part of it. But this opportunity that we have had, I have made the suggestion that the corporation start holding its meetings out in the country, and we have started that. In fact, after that suggestion was made, they said, well, you've recently made the suggestion that we hold some of our meetings out in the country. In fact, I have suggested that we start holding some of our meetings, at least one a year, or maybe 2, at a presidential library. And the first time we held a meeting out in the countryside was, where you might guess,